This, we hope, is the first of a series of community engagements that Community Development Initiatives is trying to host together with the government. And I think it's very appropriate that tonight we have the Environment Bureau as our first guest government organisation, because I think the Environment Bureau is probably the only bureau whose work affects every single person in Hong Kong, because we all have to breathe, although air is not the only environmental issue. Anyway, I'm very pleased this evening to be able to introduce to you the Secretary for Environment, Mr. Wong Kam-sing, and he will start off by giving us a presentation, and then we will have probably an hour or so open to the floor for questions and discussion. So I'd like to invite Mr. Wong to come up and start the presentation.
Good evening. Thank you, George, for the invitation to be here. Okay. Good to be invited to be here as your first guest for your evening sharing. I think most of you are caring about the environment, but that reminds me of a recent survey about people's expectation in the forthcoming policy address. The survey asked people what would be their first priority in the policy address. Many of them coded health, welfare, economy, housing, what else? Education, and probably environment is really number 6, number 7. Okay. And out of the survey, I think only say 4% of Hong Kong people or surveyed people that the environment is the first. Okay, but as mentioned by George, actually the environment affects many aspects of our living. Affects the economy, air quality. People would not come to Hong Kong. It affects our health. It affects the welfare, because it's a matter of really sharing the resources. Everyone, no matter we are wealthy or poor, we have to have good air quality. So it's really a matter of welfare as well. It's about education and about planning and development. Okay, so it's everywhere. Okay. Today, I'm not going to talk about anything about policy address. Okay. So, but something that the Bureau has to do anyway in the forthcoming years. Is Hong Kong somewhere? The bright dot somewhere on the map. Today, I would like to structure the sharing at 5 levels, from global level, regional level, local level, communal level to personal level. And at each of these levels, there are key challenges related to our Bureau, including climate change, the global issue, air quality. It's not only about Hong Kong, but we all know it's related to the whole Pearl Delta. Locally, we face a really imminent solid waste challenge. Our landfill is going to be filled up, surprisingly, very soon. Okay. One within 2 years, another one within 4 years, and another one within 6 years. So before 2020, if we are not going to have expansion or new facility, we don't know how to handle our solid waste. And at the community level, we want a more livable environment, cleaner air. And at personal level, I would like to highlight that when we talk about the environment, somehow many governments place a high emphasis on the hardwares, about incinerator, about landfill. But for me, I think it's really people's behavior and attitude. It's our culture that is really important. First one, let's talk about the climate change. It's well known, greenhouse gas emissions and eco footprint are really the problem. I really like to share with you this graph, this famous graph, very inspiring, at least for me. The vertical axis talk about the eco footprint. It summarizes all the resources consumption involved in our lifestyle. The higher, the bigger the footprints, the larger the impact on the environment. Okay? And the horizontal bar shows the Human Development Index towards my side, shows that people's are wealthier. So you can see that the yellow dots are actually the African cities or countries are not having wealthy living, but they consume a much smaller eco footprint. Okay? And the red dots are the North American, US, Canada. They are on a person basis, a very high eco footprint. At the same time, they enjoy very good lifestyle. The balancing point would be the intersection of these two. It's around the red areas, it's mainly, and also the light blue. Okay? Hong Kong eco footprint is about 5, so it's somewhere here. So if we ask how Hong Kong people, say in terms of eco footprint, can become sustainable, this data shows that almost we have to reduce our environmental impact by 50%, maybe by half. Then we will close to that figure. Okay, so that's a very good quantifiable indicators for us to map out our reduction targets. China actually is this one. It has been developing, and up to a certain time when this chart was formed, it's actually quite close to the intersection. Actually, China has scope to be a kind of good model to show an appropriate eco footprint while having a kind of reasonable, wealthy level. Certainly, Hong Kong is pretty special. We don't have much industry. So in terms of our greenhouse gas emissions, mostly from buildings, like this one, okay, in Hong Kong, 90% of the electricity is consumed in buildings. So if we'd like to address the climate change challenge in Hong Kong, buildings are really the challenge, the problem, and the solution area. So in Hong Kong, if we'd like to address that, to create a low carbon lifestyle, buildings should be the focus area. Certainly, we should have a kind of blueprint to help us to map out a low carbon lifestyle. The government may say to have building energy regulation or ordinance to control the consumption. We can use the tools like the energy audit to benchmarking, and also to guide people's change in their building upgrade. We could have the energy efficient lighting and other equipment. We could have demonstration projects to really push the benchmark to become higher. We could have district cooling system for like Kai Tak. We can have a kind of more efficient and more environmentally friendly infrastructure. We could have the LED traffic signals and other government interventions. 2 years ago, in 2011, the SDC, the Council for Sustainable Development, launched public engagement on energy saving and carbon emission reduction in buildings. At that time, I was the convener of the support group, helping SDC to launch that public engagement. That time targeted at 4 key building consumers: homes, catering, retail, and office. Each of them, they have their own pattern of energy consumption, but most of them share a common problem, is that air conditioning represents the major chunk of energy consumption, no matter if you're at home, here, or the other retail facilities. So if Hong Kong is going to reduce our carbon footprint, the focus should be placed on AC. We look at retail. Okay, similarly, retail using about 40% of their FH power on AC. Catering, even a higher share. Offices, okay, more than half. But at that time, after the engagement, we launched a kind of charter. We call it Energy Saving Charter, working with more than 100 shopping malls in Hong Kong on a voluntary basis to regulate the temperature between 24 and 26 degrees. We achieved something, even though it may not be significant, but it's the first time ever in Hong Kong, more than 100 shopping malls tried to regulate the temperature within the shopping mall. Okay, here is a bit cool, right? We are reviewing the result of the last charter and would like to launch it again with a kind of more ambitious target and wider scope. So if you have any comment, let me know. Certainly there are other tools that can help us to win our building stock, from the code for the COP for energy efficiency and building installation, to carbon audit, and also to so-called BEAM Plus. It's kind of green building labeling, not only for new buildings but also for existing buildings. In fact, related to the inflated building review, that all those new developments, if they would like to get the extra floor area, they have to go through the BEAM Plus assessment. Okay? And, some developers are here, so they are familiar with this. And last but not least is the demonstration. I think this is becoming more well known, is the zero carbon building that demonstrates how, at least at a low-rise scale, that in Hong Kong, given our high density and humidity, we can achieve low carbon situation. Luckily, I was the architect of this project when I changed my job. One fundamental thing is that for buildings in Hong Kong, even though we are having a kind of humid and hot climate, but we do have months like these days, actually it's quite comfortable without the use of AC. So this building adopted a kind of hybrid approach. In summertime, somehow we have to rely on AC, but in winter, we can use natural ventilation. And through that strategy, we save a lot of energy. Okay? And like this building, even though it's designed by a very famous Australian architect, but somehow it's based on kind of AC mode that has to be used no matter what is the temperature outside. Okay? So something that not only changed the hardware, but also changed the people's perception. Okay? If you're invited to a venue like that, saying that it's without AC, okay, for some months, people have to accept that. Second point is about the regional issue, the air quality. It's well known when the wind, say today, from the north, okay, we suffer a heavier air pollution challenge. Look at some data. It's not only the regional problem locally, we do have the issue. I would like to talk more about the regional thing. I took up this post for about 6 months. I went to mainland for at least 3 times. The key is really to have a dialogue with the mainland officials to work together and how to set the agreement between Hong Kong and Guangdong so that we can set the air quality target and also the air pollution reduction targets so that both areas can enjoy cleaner air over time. So actually last month, I guess, that we set the target, okay, that from now up to 2015, we'd like to meet the respective target, and but then by 2020, then we set another target that we can also further meet so that we can all share cleaner air. Locally, this shows that these are the major polluters in Hong Kong, from power plants, road transport, marine transport, and others. We can see that these are the 4 major indicators of pollution in Hong Kong: SO2, NOx, particulates and also VOC. For the SO2, previously, shown on this table, is power plant. But according to the latest data, to be released very soon, actually the yellow part will become the largest because we are tightening the target for power plants, okay, and they are improving. And now the marine transport becomes the biggest SO2 emitters in Hong Kong. And similarly, for lots, the yellow parts represent the largest chunk. So somehow Hong Kong has to adjust from now onwards. Previously, we placed a lot of investment on power plants improvement. But the future challenge will be more on the marine transport and also on road transport. Okay, that's based on the scientific data. Certainly, it's about the we call the ambient pollutions. We can put the power plant infrastructure to improve them. And as mentioned earlier, we have to cooperate with the mainland officials so that we can enjoy a better regional. It's not the latest. It's not the latest power plant. Doesn't matter. But the problem is that we are facing another challenge: is the roadside air pollution. Okay. Actually, over the years, we have been improving the ambient air quality to a certain extent. But what we have not been controlling or managing well is about the roadside air pollutions, in particular related to the NOx, the NO2. The pollution has been increasing over the years. So when we are going to, say, along Causeway Bay or Laven Road or even Central, our local, regional, roadside air pollutions have been worsening for years. So we have to understand why. Okay. So there are actually two main reasons. Okay, one is about the buses. I think it's well known. Okay. So we have to do something together with the Housing and Transport Bureau together to rationalize the bus routes. It's not easy due to reasons that I think it's well known. Secondly, it's about the diesel commercial vehicles. Okay, there are many in Hong Kong, and many of them are pretty aged. Compared with Singapore, they set a kind of rule or regulation about 10 years ago that noise more than, say, 15 years old has to be phased out automatically. Somehow Hong Kong in the past didn't have these kind of regulations. So some of our lorries as old as 20 or even older. Okay? The problem is not about their age, but because of their type of diesel engine is aged. They belong to the P-Euro, Euro 1, Euro 2, or even Euro 3. Okay? All these are emitting more than 10 or 30 times than the Euro 5 diesel engine. So they are highly polluting, and according to the WHO, they are causing cancer. Okay, so from the news we can see that we are going to really address that problem. Okay, on one hand, we'd like to phase out the old diesel commercial vehicles. At the same time, we are considering that we should have new regulations, say from certain time onward, for all the new commercial vehicles. They should be regulated within a certain period of time, so that they should be retiring again after some years. Another issue is about the local solid waste problem. As mentioned earlier, we are facing a very critical landfill challenge, and the lot in my backyard is something, again, well known. It's a picture showing the landfill site in Jump 10. You can see the shining part is actually the reflecting plastic in the landfill site. It's going to be fully filled up within 2 years. Okay, but they are located, one in the eastern part of the NT, one in the north, one in the west. Actually, they are, say, located in almost a triangular relationship. So that is intended to form a strategy to minimize the traveling distance for all those refuse collection vehicles, so that we can minimize additional air pollutants, noise, etc. Okay, so we have to really somehow expand all three at the same time, so that we can maintain this balanced triangle. But certainly, we are facing the local opposition because it's quite close to the high rise. You can see from this picture. So, what can we do? Actually, we are trying very hard to reduce the order, the nuisance, and also proposing that, say, for this landfill, if it's going to be extended, probably we should only transport those waste without smell. That means that the construction waste could be transported to this landfill because it's so close to the labor room. The rest, okay, could be elsewhere because those other two landfills are more remote from the different areas. So it could be a kind of balance for the holistic benefit of Hong Kong. But as mentioned earlier, it's not really about hardware, but really about our behavior, about our lifestyle that are causing the problem. MSW, the municipal solid waste, that means our living, the waste generated through our lifestyle in the commercial or the domestic premises. From this data, we can clearly say that Hong Kong people per person, that means each of you, are generating about 1.4, 1.5 kg per day. Okay? But comparing that with Taipei, Tokyo, or Seoul, we can see that Hong Kong people are more wasteful. Okay? About 40–50% more than others. That is really the core problem. Okay? We can't solve those problems by simply expanding the landfill or creating more incinerators. Okay? Those are somehow limited. Okay? But this is really something that we all have to do something to fix it. Another data, the green shows construction and demolition waste. Okay, it actually depends on the infrastructure and development scale in Hong Kong, and actually that would rise again given that our infrastructure would become getting certain peak in the coming years. The light blue represents the domestic waste. That means the waste generated from our home, quite steady despite the population increase. The third tiers, the commercial and industrial waste, that means the restaurants, hotels, actually it has been increasing. Okay? So overall, while it has been decreasing for some years, but it has been rising again. So the target is to reduce all these, including the commercial, the C&D waste, and also the MSW. And one thing not shown here is that the organic waste, the food waste, actually has been increasing as well. Out of these MSW, about 40% are food waste. Okay? It's quite high in terms of percentage. And out of the 3,500 tons of food waste daily in Hong Kong, about 2/3 are from our homes, and another 1/3 is from commercial. And those commercial organic waste actually has been increasing quite rapidly. In about 5 or 6 years ago, it's only about 400 to 500 tons per day. Now it's more than 1,000. So that means that over about 5 years, it has been doubled in terms of the total tonnage per day. So we have to minimize our loading on the landfill. Whether it's still landfill is another thing. Some friends from here wrote to SCAB today that we should set a kind of zero waste target for Hong Kong. It's quite a high aspiration, but probably reduction, recycling should be really the way forward. This waste reduction hierarchy is well known. Avoidance, minimization, reduction is really the first place, okay, instead of others. But somehow in Hong Kong, my feeling is that the government has placed more emphasis on the yellow part instead of the pink part. I think now we have to handle all these in one go. Okay, reduction and minimization should be our first strategy, and then we use recovery, recycling, and also the yellow part. But now the dilemma is that now our landfill is going to overpace very soon, and we don't have alternative end of the pipe treatment facility like incinerator. And our landfill capacity is going to be full very soon. So the dilemma is that, I mean, what I mean is that in the other countries, they would start, work on the reduction we use first, and then the infrastructure. But now we don't have time to do this step by step. Probably we have to do all these in parallel, in one go. So last year, we set up, we call the Food-Wise Campaign Committee, 6 at Hong Kong. It's really kind of full-scale campaign to be launched in the first quarter of this year, working with the commercial sector, hotel, wet market, restaurants, you name it, and also within the government, so that we can reduce our food waste. Our target is to reduce our food waste by about 10% within 3 years. This could be achievable. In other countries like London, they did a similar campaign, and the best part of London can achieve 14% reduction in food waste within a few years. And I think in Hong Kong, if we all can work together, we can achieve about 10% reduction. 10% means about 300 tons per day. It's not small scale, okay? So today, at the same time, we are building up some recycling facilities. The first, we call the organic waste treatment facility, is to treat the food waste, becoming a kind of from waste to energy, and also producing compost after the treatment, so that that would be available within 3 years' time. So we are building up hardware and also software. At the same time, we have to consider the landfill expansion as well as the waste to energy facility. Waste to energy means incinerator. Okay, so this reflects the hierarchies we mentioned in the Food-Wise campaign. Food waste reductions as source, number 1. Food donation to those busy people, second tier. And then at the same time, we consider composting. And last but not least is the landfill and incineration. I went to visit a school earlier in somewhere in Ma On Shan. Quite a good experience for me. The school, different from other schools, is that they fun is to collect the lunch at the pantry according to the portion that they want. Okay, if you are a fat guy, you collect less. Okay, good for you. Okay, and they have the vegetable and others. And the school is quite strict. They ask the students to eat the vegetable first. Okay, because many children are keen to eat the meat first rather than the vegetable. Okay, and so they have these good arrangement. The benefit is that they save a lot of the lunch box. Okay, I think it's more than 600,000 lunch box can be saved through this kind of campaign per day. Okay, and also reduce the food waste because the quality is according to what they want. Okay, it's quite an experience for me while having lunch and talking to the students. And what not shown here is that there are many cameras outside this picture. Okay, all the TV and radios are here, and we also put the mic somewhere. Okay, capturing what we are talking about. So I have to eat, finish all the food. Okay, within 10 minutes. Okay, in case some students have some little bit food waste. Okay, they have the composting box within the school, so that they can do the composting, and that's mentioned by the students. And then after a week or so, those composts can be used for farming within their school premises. It's quite a good education, but the key is really have the reduction first. While emphasizing on the education and reduction, we are at the same time building up some infrastructure. This one we call it sludge treatment facility, STF. Would be the first incinerator in Hong Kong that will be completed by end of this year. It's in Tuen Mun. The sludge is those residue from the sewage treatment facilities in Hong Kong. It's about 100 tons per day, and currently it's all to the landfill site. They are pretty smelly, probably the most smelly stuff in the landfill. So from the end of this year, all the stuff would be shifted to these STF. They would turn those waste into energy. And then they feed the energy into the power grid, kind of renewable, urban renewable energy for use in Hong Kong. So it demonstrates on one hand, waste can become energy, at the same time, kind of incinerator could work to healthy standard in Hong Kong. And at that time when they sell this project to the Tin Moon community, they said that they would provide certain community facility for them. The community facility include a kind of education center for them to understand waste that may not be attractive for them. So we add a spa. Okay? So the waste energy, the energy can heat up the water, okay, and people for free, okay, can go there for spa and enjoy the sea view. For the community level, yeah, it's here. It's about the urban livability, about the roadside, air quality, and health risk. Hong Kong people are urban species. We are enjoying the street life, but we are suffering the emissions from buses and lorries. Okay, this picture shows the thing is that the blue shows the general or called ambient air quality. It's pretty steady. Okay, actually slightly improving. But the wet bar shows the roadside stations, the roadside air pollution. It has been worsening from 2007 up to now. Okay. Two key problems: buses and diesel commercial vehicles. So we are trying to manage these two. Okay. The bus companies are easier. Okay. We are trying to ask them to replace the old buses or to upgrade the existing buses, okay? Replacement and upgrade. Lorries, they are different owners, so we have to find a way to deal with them. In the past, we do have a scheme to phase out those diesel commercial vehicles. We provide them an incentive up to 80% of the new car's value. Okay? But the response rate is pretty poor. Only up to about 10 to 30% of those owners went to join that voluntary scheme. So somehow, voluntary schemes may not be really good for Hong Kong. So we want something stronger. Okay, careful and stick. And some people mentioned about the low emission zones. That is a concept adopted overseas, new to Hong Kong, also subject to definition. Okay, we are set a target for Hong Kong, for Central, for Causeway Bay, and for Mong Kok. We would like to see the low emission zones to be in place by 2015. But that would only be related to the buses, okay, because we can have kind of administrative agreement with them, so that all buses by that time, when they are passing through those busy areas, must be really high-grade engine. That means Euro 4, Euro 5, or equivalent. That may not be applicable to private cars or lorries because we need regulations if we are going for that option. That would be not that easy. At the same time, we have to consider about the urban planning, because on one hand, we'd like to deal with the vehicles. At the same time, the urban design, urban plannings are very important, because one are the emissions, one are the fabric that allows the dispersion of those pollutants. So we have to address those two aspects. And luckily, I was the researchers on air ventilation for urban planning for the government in the past, so I'm an expert on that, so I think I can help on that in the long run. Environmental friendly cars, as mentioned, this is the incentive scheme for replacing Euro 2 diesel commercial vehicles. The response only about 10 or less than 15% up to now. At the same time, we are trying some innovative solutions for Hong Kong. This we call the super capacitor. That is kind of green buses adopted in the Shanghai Expo area, and now could be adopted in Hong Kong, like in those new areas like Kai Tak. Also for different vehicles, including taxi, lorries, they can go for EV or hybrid. EV. Actually, I myself, my partner, Christine Low, are all using EV in this month. Quite enjoyable, very quiet, steady. Some people, I think in yesterday or around that, complained that it's quite difficult for old buildings. Okay, if in your at home you would like to buy an EV, but whether you can get the charger within your commune car park could be a challenge. Actually, we did have some successful case in Hong Kong that with our help or help from the EMSD, we can arrange even within old estates. Through certain simple retrofit, they can provide the power for your EV. So it's doable. At the same time, I think Donald know that in all the new development in Hong Kong, if they would like to get the full area construction, all the new car park in the residential estate must be EV enabled. So actually Hong Kong are not too bad. We are having the infrastructure to enable more people to use their EV at home, even in living in the apartment or other similar estates. As mentioned earlier, air ventilation, that means the urban air will be very important so that we can have the pollutant dispersion easier. I think the Timber project is quite a pretty good example with the gateway effect. Actually, the sea breeze, land breeze can be communicated easily. And also with the new regulation under the business ordinance, more projects will provide high green ratio to upgrade our urban air quality. Number 5 would be the personal aspect, behavior, very important. I say that here is about the business as usual or whether people are really greedy. I would like to cite an example is that Hong Kong people are pretty greedy. Is that they want the temperature to be pretty constant no matter what's the temperature outside. Okay, some people would like to wear the bow tie throughout the years. We expect that the temperature should be constant. But I think it's not really reasonable. Okay, that we have to really to adapt our lifestyle according to the seasons and months. So as this project is the Silkham building. So they expect people, the occupants within that building, have to somehow having their adaptive lifestyle according to different seasons. Okay, so in winter time, okay, they can use natural ventilation. In summer, they can use AC, but they have to dress in a kind of an appropriate dressing code. So this shows the appropriate dressing code in summer. Okay, that even though within certain indoor environment using AC, assisted by electric fan, and also appropriate dressing code, people can use minimal energy but enjoying a healthy and comfortable indoor environment. This is going to be my last part of sharing today. I think we are still facing a kind of struggle between conservation and development. In particular, that we are now really fighting for more land for housing and development. Hong Kong is actually a very beautiful place. You can see that this is Geopark in Hong Kong. We are conserving those areas. But in many other parts of Hong Kong, we are facing certain tension, including Sai Wan in Sai Kung. This project, this site is actually undergoing a kind of zoning arrangement that would help to conserve this part of, we call the Country Park Enclave. That is the privately owned area within Country Park areas. So we're trying to start with Sai Wan for better conservation. Some other areas in Hong Kong are subject to development pressure. This one, Sao Lo Dong, near Tai Po, a developer owning a large share of area within this village, proposing this area to have a kind of columbarium development somewhere next to the village, while in turn sharing the other area of the Hong Kong people and government for conservation. I think many green groups are objecting to this proposal because even though the columbarium site is pretty small in terms of the overall coverage, but the impact could be significant because this one probably is the number 2 area that enjoying very vibrant biodiversity. In the past, we have the new nature conservation policy listing 12 most important sites in Hong Kong. Number 1 is Maple, number 2 is Sa Lo Dong. Okay, so we are trying to do something about Sa Lo Dong so that we can strike a better balance between conservation and development. And while having those local sites, we are going to have a kind of bigger, more holistic blueprint to address this conflict, addressing the biodiversity concern. And Hong Kong, foreign mainland China, is going to be a part of this international convention about biodiversity. So we would have kind of the action plan and strategy to map out all the biodiversity and also the habitats and species in Hong Kong, so that we can have a holistic plan to conserve all those important species and habitats, so that we can have better database to balance with the development pressure. That's my last word today, is that while having all this hardware and else, I think it's to give the people with green hearts that really matter. Thank you.
But Mr. Wong, thank you very much indeed for that very comprehensive sharing of the environmental challenges that we face in Hong Kong and some of the ideas that your Bureau has for solving them. I'm sure you've left some things out because you don't want to preempt the Chief Executive for next week, so perhaps we can go away a little bit optimistic. There are some more initiatives that are going to come along after today. I think now we'd like to open up to questions. Feel free to ask your question in either Chinese or English, and in order to afford time for everyone who wants to ask questions, can you try and keep your questions short and to single part questions, not 7 or 8 questions in one fell swoop. If there's time, you'll get an opportunity to ask questions more than once. Okay, who would like to?
I'm ready.
Okay.
In the zero carbon project that you mentioned several times, one of the features is it has many energy efficient installation. But another important feature is in this project, it has its own generation facility. It has a solar panel. It has the diesel generator using the biodiesel. The concept is in the long run, sometimes you get the power from the grid, sometimes you generate the power back to the grid. So in the long run, it does not consume any power. So would the government or the Bureau will consider this can be a model that can be promoted in the Hong Kong? That means you should ask for some more application in this model. I mean, in one side, we can increase the percentage of the renewable. I understand that there will be many difficulties, but my question is already too long. Okay, so I'll stop here.
Thank you for this question. I think, as mentioned earlier, buildings are really the problem and probably the solution for Hong Kong if we would like to address the climate change concern and also to improve our air quality. Buildings are really the key. So the government would like to do more about that. For the zero carbon building, it's only 3-story tall, but it tries to demonstrate that within Hong Kong's climate and urban context, we can achieve the carbon neutrality. But within that project, still the reduction in energy use is the key. That means through the hybrid ventilation, reduction in the reliance on AC for some months, that's the key. But in order to make it more sexy, to become carbon neutral, so we have to rely on the renewable energy and also the biodiesel cogeneration to offset the energy consumption. Actually, it's not only carbon neutral, but we call it the energy plus. That means annually it generates more energy than it consumes, so that within its lifespan, say 30 years or 50 years, it can pay back to the energy used for the construction， 好似供樓回本咁樣 ，OK， 即係本利都係即係俾埋嘅。But around the world, the best, say the best, carbon neutral building is only about 5 to 6 story tall. Okay, it also depends on the climate of that site. But because of all those technology constraints, the height is only up to 5 to 6 stories. So people may wonder whether that concept is really useful for Hong Kong, because our average building height at least 10 or 20 stories. Okay, so the key is, on one hand, the project is a kind of education tool, so in different demonstration, and on top of that, it's a kind of evolving project. That means if we are going to have new technology, that can be further add to that project and for demonstration. And that project has many sensors to calibrate, to measure the performance of each strategies, so that those lessons can be shared in other projects. So I think the meaning of that project is so we seen from that angle. Thank you.
黄先生你好，我来自北京的环保组织叫自然之友，然后现在在香港中文大学读书。那我比较关心香港的垃圾问题。我们之前在内地的一些研究是从北京和广州的案例看到，其实一个城市垃圾问题它是一个很立体的一个问题嘛。那在这里边，我们反正北京和广州的案例看出来是最难的一个点是城市垃圾的混合处理问题。那混合处理里边又是厨余问题，又是其中最难的。厨余里边商业的和这个住宅小区的社区的垃圾里边，社区如何能够把厨余垃圾分开是难中之难。所以我想请问您，在未来的和现在我们做的和未来，您觉着有没有信心把这个社区里边的厨余垃圾给分开？那我们现在有哪些办法来做到？谢谢。
我用英文说好吧
OK。
You are asking a very good question. Actually, for Hong Kong or for mainland, I think we are at least facing two key challenges. One is about our city is very three-dimensional, it's high-rise. Secondly, it's actually about Chinese people. Okay, in Japan, somehow they are pretty successful. Okay, because it's Japanese. Okay, but somehow we are having a different hardware and different species. But I try to be optimistic. We are sponsoring some public and private housing in Hong Kong to having the food waste separation and also the on-site composting facility. We already started with 11 private housing estates plus some public housing estates. The response are pretty successful, okay? Although only about 10% or about 100 households can try or experience that separation within the estates, okay? Many feedback are saying that the demand is quicker than the supply. That means more than 100 households would like to contribute to that within each of these estates. Some of those estates have been trying that for more than 6 months. So we are collecting the feedback, okay? So far, so good, okay? Given that we are launching our second phase of funding, sponsoring another 45 housing estates in Hong Kong to try that. So within 2 years, we will see about 50 housing estates experience. That actually represents about 10% of the total household in Hong Kong. So it's quite a lot. Okay. So through those experiments, we can see how we can do all this within our particular urban context. And these estates are actually representing different situations in Hong Kong. Some are low-rise, like Honolulu. Okay. Some are mid-rise, about 10-story high, and some are really 40, 50-story high buildings. So we are trying different building fabrics and how they are going to be successful. And another story is that we are also experimenting them in the rural areas. One pretty good story is in Wall, in the Silver Mine Bay in Lantau Island. We sponsor them, and actually 10% of the total population in Wall are separating their food waste from home and also from the commercial areas. The response are very positive. It has been for about a year. Okay, why they are successful is because within the team or the NGO, they have a few really energetic housewife. Okay, that really make the scheme really workable and can share with the neighborhood about all this good experience. So I think the key is that we have to work with the ladies, okay, particularly housewives, so that we can have a good chance of success. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I find that you have presented very good, pictures of what you're going to do, okay, to improve the environments of Hong Kong. But I guess that one of the major problems in Hong Kong is that we have an increasing number of the population. And almost every day we have, at least if I'm still correct, 50% allowed to enter in Hong Kong from our motherland. Now, this increasing number of people will probably, create a lot of pressure, on the environmental problem of Hong Kong, because the people entering Hong Kong, they are probably in the younger generation, they will carry more baby in the futures, Now, judging on the capacity of Hong Kong right now, no matter what sort of improving program that you are proposing, if we can solve the increasing number of people living in Hong Kong, the problem will continue, remain there. So is there any way that we can convince the central government to stop that? Number of people entering Hong Kong, number one. Number two is that can we, structure the city in a way that we redistribute the CBD into the satellite town rather than highly concentrated of the business people in Central District, Causeway Bay, and Tsim Sha Tsui. Without solving that sort of problem, I guess that our environmental problem will remain there.
I think you are asking some very good questions, but I think I have had enough headaches for me within my portfolio to answer.
Thank you. Mr. Wong, thank you for the talk. You mentioned in one of your slides the use of computing equipment also occupies around 28% of electricity used in Hong Kong in the buildings.
For some uses.
Yes, right. So what is being done? That's a fairly high percentage in comparison to other parts of electricity use. And also there are other energy sources. For example, you haven't mentioned batteries. The disposal of batteries in Hong Kong is notorious. A lot of toxic waste being mixed with regular waste. And so I'd like to hear a bit of information from your perspective on that, please.
Okay, so you're asking two questions. One is about the energy consumption, in particular, say for some uses like offices, within the energy pie that the computing or the equipment could occupy for a reasonable share. Secondly, your question is about the, probably I'd like to expand that to the electrical and electronic wastes, not only batteries, but also waste computer, waste TV, they are actually increasing. So your second question is that actually we had conducted a public consultation probably last year about this, because the waste, electrical and electronic equipment. So we would have the new regulation in Hong Kong to address the say the TV, the washing machine, the refrigerator, and what else, and plus the computer. So all those electrical and electronic equipments, in future we will have a system in place to collect all of them, okay, and then properly dispose them in an environmentally friendly way. Okay, so we will have a system in place, but wait for a while. Okay, but your first question is about the consumption. I think there are at least two areas. One is that we have a kind of energy labeling system for different equipments, for copy machine and others. Some are mandatory, some are voluntary. So when we are going to buy those equipments, go for the grey one or
or equivalent. Okay, those are the consumer advice. But secondly, really the operations would affect the actual consumption, okay, whether they are on standby mode or something like that. So probably for large corporations, we will advise you to have the energy carbon audit so that they can understand your operation mode, and then they will advise how to operate those equipments would be most efficient. So I think those are the simple answers. Thank you.
Is it me? Yes. First of all, I'd like to echo that gentleman's question raising about the population problem. This is a major challenge that we are facing now. The population number is not just number, is the living pattern they bring into Hong Kong is a tremendous block for us to go further environmental development in Hong Kong. I will applaud your goodwill and your efforts spending into the environmental concern development plan and concept in here. But come to the reality, I have at least 12 questions that I want to raise, but I know it will not be enough time for me to go through them all. But I would like to raise a few as much as I can. First of all, I would like to hear your vision and concept of how the consumption habits that we have. This is one of the major ways producing for us is our ordinary life, how the way we consume into the market, how we spend our life. We have, apart from the education student inside the school, behind them are those parents. How we are facing the competition of all the environmental message competing with the lifestyle they're living, the ordinary lifestyle they're living, the everyday, every second advertisement that encouraging the public to buy some more, buy some more, and buy some more. Every supermarket, they are creating tons of plastic bottle way outside the shopping mall, and all the shopping mall every 2 or 3 years will go through a major renovation to upgrade their image. And this is a massive waste producing process that we are dealing with. Would that be any legislation force that coming from the department soon, or would that be any other law power will enforce more aggressive progress? I don't think we can wait any longer, because we are facing environmental conservation, species conservation challenge that we all facing with all this profit-making, profit-seeking development behind that. And these are actually a war that we are facing. How would you deal with that?
I think you are describing the war in a reasonably accurate way. There are many funds that we have to address. What we are going to do is that for each of these areas, we are going to launch, we call a kind of blueprint. Okay, they say on solid waste, we would launch our solid waste blueprint. Or actually, we are not going to use the term waste, but actually the resource recovery blueprint in Hong Kong. That trying to really share the information with all Hong Kong people. For instance, our waste per person is much higher than other neighboring cities.
Much higher.
Yeah. So I think I'm seeing some positive changes while we are sharing those data more widely in Hong Kong. I think we are receiving certain positive feedback that after all this engagement, that we are seeing certain change or improvement. But I think we all know that we are having 7 million people in Hong Kong. Okay, we can reach only less than 100 today. Okay. How we can really broadcast all these more widely is really the challenge. So we are having the blueprint and also a kind of more territorial campaign, okay, on food waste, on waste separations. You will see these in the first half of this year, very soon. Okay, and I see that, or my team see that, it's not really my own challenge, but it's really a challenge shared by all Hong Kong people. If we would like to be successful, we all have to work together towards that goal. So I would bother you later how we can really share and broadcast all these messages. Certainly one emphasis is on education, okay? That would be the really the fastest. Another mode is about the charter option. Earlier with the energy saving charter with the shopping mall. So far, not too bad, okay? It's a good start. We may, okay, work with the shopping malls, okay, to address your problem about the frequent renovation of shops. I received repeated complaint about that, actually. Some small, actually a chain store owner, they has stores in shopping malls, okay? And upon the renewal of the tenancy agreement, even though only after 2 years, the shops are in a very good shape, they are forced to have a kind of major retrofit, okay, in order to comply with the tenancy agreement. It's really ridiculous. It's not really about money. The chain store owners is okay, they are earning money, but it's really wasteful, okay? Everything in good shape, okay? So we talked with the Retailer Association. They are sharing that concern. So we would like to address that, okay? But if you talk about regulation, I think friends here know that it takes years, 3 years or 4 years. That by that time I will retire. So probably we have to think in a more innovative way how we can have a faster means to achieve our goal. We can't wait for 3 years or 4 years in order to make some change. Certainly, at the same time, we will consider different means. Okay, maybe it's charter or education first. At the same time, we consider regulations. So we have try to have a kind of comprehensive strategy. Certainly, you can see some holes or gaps there. Okay, but we try to be holistic and understand what are the major quantities loading our landfills. Okay, what are really the minorities? But we'd like to try to look at the whole spectrum and try to tackle them one by one with the appropriate means. I can also share with you that's like glass bottles, okay, or glass, okay, the Perrier, okay, not really for it. That is not a large quantity in Hong Kong. Only about 1% of our solid waste to landfill glasses, okay. But we'd like to address that. We'd like to set up a system in Hong Kong so that all the waste glass can be recycled within our territory. Because we can find a way to absorb all those waste glass within our construction site. We can make the use of the waste glass for the pavers, the concrete blocks, and also for some other construction materials. So now we can see the opportunity. Even though it's about 1% of our solid waste, we can complete the loop. So we will launch the public consultation trial soon to address that problem. Similarly for timber, some NGOs raised that issue about the Christmas trees. Okay, actually they received a very good response. There are many trees, more trees than that they can store. Okay, so they phone me up and say, hey, Minister, we don't have land to temporarily store all those timber. Please help. Okay, so actually within 3 hours we find a land for the NGO, and now we can have all these Christmas trees being dried under the sun. Okay, and they would become kind of the something that the timber could become a kind of fuel for burning.
We'll just show it after you.
So actually, I think the Hong Kong are having a kind of a changing culture that more people are willing to help on these aspects. So I think we have to work together to address this huge problem. Thank you.
Mr. Wong, thank you for the talk, actually. You mentioned something, you mentioned quite a bit, actually, of my original question. I was just trying to put my views on that, basically. one of the things that you mentioned in your speech was that basically buildings were one of the more important elements in order to tackle things like the carbon emissions, etc. And I would just suggest that it's not just that. It's more than that. It's like, I mean, you mentioned just now that there were a third of the organic waste is coming from commercial waste itself already. Okay, and my suggestion or my idea or vision was try to ask what issues or opportunities you found you might have with developers or cooperating with developers to do this. And I was just thinking, like, you know, how could you try to encourage developers to increase the number of environmental facilities in their buildings, whether they're new or old? Okay, for example, like putting composters in these buildings. Okay, which would actually reduce the problem at source in a sense. Okay, but I mean, so you've already mentioned that you're trying to do regulations and stuff. Okay, trying to tackle that or discuss with them. So my other question would be, in what sense would you find, or what ideas do you have regarding using education as a tool to try to push the message of being environmental or different policies or strategies to try to tackle this? Because I'm an educator, and for the past 10 years, okay, the textbooks that we see, there has literally been no new stuff relating to the environment or relating to how the government is tackling the environment. There's literally nothing new in that. And I think this is due for a major upgrade, and it should be a continual one. One other thing I'd like to mention is the utter uselessness, if I may say, of the switching car engines idea. Because at our schools, okay, we're looking at many parents or drivers of these vehicles sitting there with their vehicles on, okay, oblivious of this so-called idling engine ban. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I think you're asking many questions, right? Yeah, but I'd like to address them briefly. Firstly, about education, it's very important. So my key strategy is that I would like to work with the Minister on Education together to help to address that problem related to school. Similarly, I work with the Transport and Housing Bureau, okay? Okay, together we'd like to address the transport problem. And also we work with the Development Bureau, okay, the Minister, okay, to address the building issue. It's really cost bureau. And in order to get certain breakthrough that we see as a joint of government, that we emphasize cross bureau effort on addressing all these problems. So this is really basic. In the past, somehow, it's not a criticism, but it's quite natural that each minister or each bureau, they have certain compartmentalization. They do their own job well, right? But in order to have the synergy and breakthrough, that we have to really work together between the bureaus. So that's one thing that in the new term of government that we'd like to do much better than before. About building developers, I think Donald is here. Okay, you can help answer some. But I think they want a kind of level playing field. Okay, it's really they all would like to do something good for Hong Kong, good for the community, right? But it's really to create a kind of level playing field is very important. Rather than regulation, regulation is also to provide a level playing field. I can say an example, like the Fair Wind Charter. Okay, you know the street emissions. They have a water scheme that some of them would like to use cleaner fuel when they are breathing in Hong Kong. But actually, it's not very good. Even though now we provide the incentive to deniers, okay? Because while we are sharing the cost, they share another portion, but actually they are having more expenses than those companies not joining the incentive scheme. So it's not a kind of level playing field. So in order to be fair and also to be effective, so we have to build on this kind of concept. Currently, under the buildings department, they have the incentive in terms of the floor area. So if they're going to do certain green features, they gain more area exempted or bonus GFA. So I think now we are emphasizing more on the organic waste or food waste, so that we can simply amend that, we call it practice note, so that every developers can go for that. Okay, certainly we will talk with the developers about all this, so that we can have the infrastructure and also the future operation in place, so that the installed equipment can be in well use. Thank you.
KS, well, certainly we appreciate you as an experienced professional with very dedicated to the environment, and you have a very busy agenda. But I'm going to ask a question that's not touched upon in your presentation, which is about the EIA system. As we all know, you're expecting to install a lot more environmental infrastructure in the next few years. But then the EIA system has been criticized all along, and there's been problems arising, like judicial reviews, whether it's on the bridge, and also ongoing judicial reviews on the incinerators, and potential judicial reviews on Long Mei, for example. So the system certainly is not working, and there's lots of expectation for the system to be improved with more public engagement, more transparency and independence for the consultants and so on. So my simple question is this: do you have on your agenda in the next 5 years the reform of the EIA system?
Albert always asks tough questions.
My question too.
Okay.
My question too.
The system is not as bad as you say. Okay, it's to some extent working pretty good. But I would like to say that on certain areas that could be more controversial, somehow the current EIA system may not be the best format to present the best result. Okay, I would like to elaborate a bit. Like something on the EIA is very comprehensive. They address the noise impact and some other things. Say on noise impact, okay, it's something well proven and based on very good established science. So the current system can really work on that aspect very effectively without any argument. Okay. There are many other aspects similar to the noise impact within the EIA. No problem. I mean, no big problem. Whether I'm the client, you are my consultant, you do that, and this is a checker, even though this is a government project, no one challenges those aspects because it's well proven, right? But for some other aspects, like ecology, it's really a kind of science that is not as, I would like to say, not as established as the noise. So that comes the problem, okay? And while we are having the current EIA system, somehow the community may not find the operation really, I mean, they don't really trust the system. Then the problem comes, okay? I'm hearing comments about the EIA system. They would like to change it or to improve it. My view is that certainly we are having some JR cases. Okay, let's wait for the outcome. Okay, and see what happens. Okay, certainly there are the room for improvement for whatever. Okay, and EIA system can be one. Okay, so to answer your tough question, okay, my answer is that let's wait for the JR result first. Okay, and see what's the outcome. And now we just appoint the new the ACE, the Advisory Council on the Environment. We'd like to listen to their opinions, how to make the system smoother, at least with some small areas first. Okay. At the same time, I think we will find an occasion to sit down together with the stakeholders and to see what we should do. Okay. But as mentioned earlier, I opine that the system it's not as bad as you say. Okay. So
will you at least commit to open it up and have a public consultation on whether the system needs to be reformed?
Actually, we are within our bureau talking about that option. Okay, let's see the outcome. Because I have to rely on my colleagues' professional advice to see the pros and cons of your proposal or that option before I would like to make up my mind about the way forward. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Wong, I would like to ask a question about the renewable energy. The photovoltaic technology, the use of solar energy, has been developing very rapidly in China in the recent 5 to 10 years. I would like to know whether it is feasible for this technology to be deployed on widespread scale in Hong Kong. Thank you.
Okay, it's a relatively technical question. My view is that renewable energy application can have probably a better market in mainland than Hong Kong. Why? Because Hong Kong is basically a high-rise city, dense and tall. The available area for renewable energy may not be as good as in mainland. Okay, and because mainland you have the urban areas, you have the rural areas. So for solar, even for wind, you have a better future than us. But certainly, we are still investing on renewable energy, like the Silicon building. We try to use certain things related to our urban aspects, like the waste oil. That project actually used the waste oil from the local restaurants, and while we have the local bio waste treatment plant to turn those waste oil into usable, clean biodiesel, and they become the fuel for use in the cogeneration plant in the Silicon building. That they can generate cooling to provide the half year. I forgot what I did. Is to dry up the air, to cool it, and also to provide electricity. Okay, so for that urban waste, that means the waste oil from restaurants, that actually we can have application in Hong Kong, and that if found to be really successful and for wider use in Hong Kong, that would be a major useful renewable energy for the urban context. So I think we have different contexts, and we may use different kind of renewable energy. Thank you.
Mr. Wong. I like to talk about pesticides in Hong Kong. The pesticide ordinance hasn't been upgraded since the 90s, and the amendment bill basically was looked at last year. And I went to the meeting at Lichco, and Gary Lung was there. It looks like it's not going to be reviewed or renewed for another two years. The government, as the other gentleman may have mentioned about the system, the government's dragging its feet on this particular issue because there's many dangerous pesticides. One particular, I can name several actually, but diazinon, for instance, is linked to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. There's no regulations in the schools as far as it's used in the schools. It's been used. There's other organophosphates being used in the schools. There's only guidelines. Some of the school systems just laugh at the guidelines. 1823 is useless. The AFCD, the EPD, and the FEHD just turn a blind eye, and they said, I've rung them up many times, and they said it's only until somebody dies that they can do something about it. Many other chemicals are new. There's microencapsulated chemicals like pyrethroids, which are used in the classrooms in Hong Kong. They have half-lives of up to 90 days because the capsules last a long time. The children are sitting in the classrooms, and and the government can't do anything. They won't do anything, and it's a serious problem. And as I say, particularly the diazinon, the non-Hodgkin's lymphoma has increased in quite a number of years recently. So I wish something could be done. A committee could be set up to look at this issue.
Okay, thank you for your question. You are the first one to raise this kind of question to me within these 6 months. I have to be honest, I haven't really covering the issue that you are raising. But if you would like to follow up, do email me so that I can really follow up with my colleague. Thank you.
Well, I work for developers, so I want to kind of respond to comments earlier on how can developer contribute more to improve the environment. I cannot speak for all developers, but I think for responsible developers, and I am sure that my company is one of them, is that we are very often frustrated by our efforts actually to build more greener buildings. One of the problems, I think KS has already mentioned, is that in the previous administration, a lot of the boroughs are having a silo mentality, and they just look at their own jurisdiction requirement. For example, when we try to reduce the electrical usage in our building, we were trying to convince the fire service department that the exit staircase, the lighting did not need to be on 24 hours. It can be activated by a motion sensor and so on. And that didn't get anywhere. Also, when we tried to improve the microclimate of our development through the meaningful usage of sky garden and so on, there are a lot of resistance, and sometimes it's not approved. And also when we try to install energy efficient equipment or system and so on, obviously they will take up some spatial area, and very often we are not only not being incentivized or encouraged, but actually we are penalized because if we are providing those equipment, those areas need to be counted into the GFA calculation. They are not being exempted. So I think it's really encouraging when I hear that the new administration will having more cross bureaus and across departmental dialogues to ensure that policy adopted by one bureau will be supported by the other. I think that is the key issue.
Thank you, Donald.
I would, rather than ask a question, would just like to make some suggestions. You said the government consultation revealed that environment was way down on the list of priorities. That is because the 15% of the population who don't speak Chinese are never been asked what they think about anything. We're completely left out of any consultation. I've had numerous telephone calls from university polls, and once I answer yes or hello, the phone is put down. Yeah, so. Number two, I would agree with what Donald has just said. Go to Cyberport, look at the buildings there, 50-story buildings, 60-story buildings, a light on every corridor, totally useless. How many of those people ever go out onto the staircases? This is because the building regulations are not keeping in line with the needs of the society. There's absolutely no reason why we can't have sensors on the staircase. In my building, I have 3 lights outside my home, and I don't need any. Yeah, so roadside pollution, very easy. The buses and the goods vehicles are being blamed for everything. Actually, one of the reasons for our problems is congestion caused by illegal parking. This is brought about because the police have, their policy is verbal warning. While this verbal warning policy is allowed to continue, we will continue to have these problems. So the EPD should be pushing the police to immediately proceed with zero tolerance on parking violations, the same way as every other regulation in on the books. Also, supervision of parking facilities. Large developers have been given free GFA to provide parking facilities. These are supposed to include offloading and unloading facilities. In fact, I have an example in front of my home, the one, supposed to have 30 goods offloading, unloading. It has 3. That means that the vehicles are queuing up on the road outside, while the developer is enjoying 3 floors of free GFA that he is using for his own parking, PFANE parking. So that is something that could be addressed. The government should be leading in flexi hours. One of the reasons for high congestion and one of the reasons for so many lunch boxes is the fact that everybody has lunch at the same time, everybody goes to work at the same time, goes home at the same time. Very easy. How many government departments, as an example, to show everybody else, need to be staffed from 9 to 5, 9 to 6? So we should immediately embark on flexi arrangements, and that would have a knock-on effect in all the other things. Finally, one of my favorites, noise. You've probably been too busy to go to your own website, but your noise control page has not been updated since 2002. It's now 2012. In 1992, we had this introduction of the legislation against things that cause noise pollution, and 2 items were introduced, some sort of pneumatic power drills or that. Since then, nothing has been added to the list. When I tried to have the legislation enforced on the intruder alarm systems, which are totally useless and keep a lot of people awake at night, I was told the regulation couldn't be enforced because it hadn't been put on the list. So, hey, 20 years later, how about all those Porsche cars, Maseratis and Lamborghinis and everything go streaming around our territory, which are totally useless because they can't be driven at more than 30 or 40 km an hour and cause a lot of vibration and extra noise. All these, they should be banned under this noise control ordinance. So hopefully I've given you some indication of the way forward, some very easy ways to make Hong Kong a better place. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Wong. Firstly, may I congratulate your department because I saw that a lot of recycling, separation recycling bins like for metal, for papers are now springing up all around Hong Kong. At least I have 3 within the vicinity of my own home. But I have 2 questions. In your presentation, you did mention the yellow bar, which is one of the biggest generator of air pollution, is from vehicles. Now, in a lot of, they always say that compare Hong Kong with the leading world cities. Now, the leading world cities are now promoting cycling. In London and in Paris, they are having free cycling. I mean, you could put in a coin and then cycle around to the other end of the town and then put the bike back in. I myself, I've been cycling back to work virtually every day and every evening back home. So in terms of reducing air pollution, one of the biggest initiatives might well be to promote cycling, not just in new territories, but in Kowloon, but on Hong Kong Island, where I myself live. That might be, as you said, the inverse triangle. If you can reduce the uses of these private cars and public transports by cycling, it also improved general health of people. So I'd like to hear from you as an environmental secretary, what sort of measures you are going to push. And then my second question is that environment, obviously there's a balance between environment and development. And one of the biggest holders of land in Hong Kong are one of those sort of those golf clubs, all those private clubs exclusively for rich people, a relic of the colonial times. Now I cannot see why in those precious in the middle of the town, I mean, you have got large tracts of land being used by those Royal Hong Kong golf clubs, all these little whatever country clubs, all these things. All these can be turned to better uses by, say, for example, People's Park, Deng Xiaoping Memorial Park, say for example. As you're the Environment Secretary, I'm sure that you'll be pleased to see that more of those green spaces. I'm not green spaces being dedicated to people, instead dedicated for the exclusive use by the exclusively few. Thank you very much. Two questions.
Two questions. First one, I think we all know that we are going to have a more complete cycling loop around the new territories very soon. But I think the key challenge is how to, within the Hong Kong Island and Kowloon urban areas, how we can also integrate the cycle path. That is really the challenge. My humble view is that probably for Hong Kong Island, we're going to have the new MTR lines, okay, north-south and also to the west. And also we're going to have the Central Wan Chai bypass very soon in a few years. That combination will provide a good opportunity for us to review, okay, the Hong Kong Island's commuting strategies. So that means within a few years we'll see alternative routes. So by that time we can really effectively consider many traffic management or alternative commuting means, including probably cycling or even the electronic pricing system. I think by that time we would see more potential for, say, Hong Kong Island to integrate all these alternatives. That would be really useful. I would see it this way, and I would convince my, I would work with my Transport and Housing Bureau colleagues on this. That is my humble wish. For your second question is about what?
Last tracks of all these golf clubs, all these exclusive private clubs, occupying large tracts of land in the middle of the town. Their rents, so-called, the leases, say, being renewed at the Peppercorn rent, very little. But why should the government take back the land, give it back to the people, turn them to transport the public in general?
Okay. I don't have an immediate answer to your question. Okay, it's something that I haven't thought about. Okay, but actually, one Green Group people called me yesterday about the same question, and at that time my answer is that say for the urban areas, say in Jordan or areas, there are some clubs that described by you. Actually, environmentally, they are serving certain buffering function, okay, because those areas are really built up, and those green areas, even though people, or many people may not be equally enjoying that spatially, but in terms of the air ventilation, in terms of the greening, somehow they are serving certain function. So if they're going to be converted into, some people say that they should be converted into housing sites. That's something that I may not fully agree.
I'm not saying that housing sites, but say, for example, change them to another, say, Victoria Park.
So I think you are talking about another issue who are going to use those club areas. That something may go beyond my turf, okay? But certainly, as a joint government, I think if there are more consensus about that, certainly we can take that to consider. Thank you.
My timekeeper tells me my timekeeper tells me that we're out of time now, so I'm afraid we have to draw the questions to a close. I'd like to thank you all who asked questions and gave your views, and I hope that Mr. Wong was listening, not just hearing, as often happens when we have sessions like this. And I'd like to thank Mr. Wong for coming here tonight and for sharing his views with us. And we look forward perhaps to doing this again with some other Bureau Secretaries in due course. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.